Hey guys, welcome to Dorm Squad Sports, a college sports podcast based off of mostly Alabama sports. I'm doing the intro this time because Cody wanted me to. We have a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about sports and Bama. All right, Cody, what's your elephant in the room?
Great job filling in that time, Oak. Okay, my elephant in the room, I think it's the entire state's elephant in the room, is Dixieland Delight has been freed. We actually did it. They had to blare beat Auburn in the speakers to make sure they couldn't hear the student section, but we finally did it. And I think if they just blare beat Auburn in at every pause so they don't hear what the student section actually says whenever there's a pause, we might actually get to keep this thing. Chances are we're going to get until about the Iron Bowl, and we can't have nice things, so we're not going to have it next season, but I'll take what I can get at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think like they may just start just playing it louder and louder and louder until you can't even hear the people anymore. That's the only reason that we'd be able to keep it probably. But anyway, my elephant in the room is Tua's knee tweak. So he sprained it the week prior to the Missouri game, and he was sliding on a play on a quarterback scramble last week. Tweaked to stay on the field for a little bit. He walked off under his own power, went to the tent for a while. His parents went in, prayed for him and stuff, and they say he's fine, but you really can't be too careful, especially against Tennessee. I mean, obviously I'm not Nick Saban, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play as much again just because of the risk of hurting his knee.
Yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit how the SEC has done this year. You know, coming into the year, the narrative was pretty much that the Big Ten was the best conference, that the SEC was slumping, but I think it's kind of the other way around. Even though you got some teams like Auburn and Mississippi State who've really been underperforming, LSU, Florida, Kentucky, Texas A&M, all those teams have really been on the uprise this season. I may be leaving out a few. But it looks like the SEC is really returning to form and being the most dominant football conference in college football.
Yeah, I completely agree. Up next, we have our offensive MVP, and Oakley, you had first pick this week, and you had pretty easy to pick, honestly.
Yeah, I really did. I picked Jerry Jeudy. He had 3 receptions for 147 yards on 3 receptions. That's almost 50 yards per reception, and he had a touchdown, and that came on the second play of the game. So really got the crowd hyped up. It was amazing.
Yeah, my offensive MVP is Jedrick Wills. You know, the offensive line has been been criticized at times this season, but I can assure you it has nothing to do with the play of our 2 offensive tackles. Wills is probably playing the second best out of anybody on the offensive lineman, and that's not a knock on Wills. That's just how great Jonah Williams has been all season long. And, you know, Wills started out at right guard in the spring, then moved to right tackle, and so that shows you how much they trust him protecting Tua's blind side right there, and he's done a great job of doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And mine, I picked Jalen Hurts. This isn't really a stats pick. This is just because I right now have so much respect for what Jalen Hurts has done this season. He could have easily just bailed on us. He could have used his red shirt and transferred at the end of the year, but he stuck it out with us. And at this point, it's looking more than ever that we're going to need him at some point, because with Tua's knee not being a guarantee that he'll be able to play an entire season, we pray he can. But even if he can't, knowing that we have Jalen to back him up and have Jalen come in when Tua got injured against Missouri, plays like that is really what shows character. And like I said, this isn't really his stats, even though his QBR was 92.7. This is more just for what he's done for this program. He's probably done something bigger than almost anyone else has off the field. And Oakley, you had defensive MVP first pick too.
Yeah, I picked Savion Smith. We really had 3 cornerbacks heading in before Diggs got hurt. Diggs, Savion, and then freshman Patrick Surtain. Now we really have 2. And our backups after that, freshman Josh Jobe, probably. Obviously, he's freshman, so doesn't have a whole lot of experience. So Savion and Surtain, they're good. I mean, obviously Surtain's a freshman too, but he has a higher skill set and leading up to this point, great body style for the kind of cornerback that Saban likes to play. But you could tell there's a gap there. And Savion picked it up. He had 2 interceptions and 4 tackles, and you couldn't see much drop off.
Yeah, I picked Isaiah Buggs. a lot of the talk coming into the season was about Raekwon Davis, and then once the season started, everybody kind of has been in awe of Quentin Williams, which he has earned all that. But Isaiah Buck has done a great job this year. He's racked up a lot of sacks. He has 7 on the season. He added a sack and a half last Saturday, so he's doing a really good job of rushing the passer and pretty much everything you want out of a senior defensive lineman.
Yeah, in mine, I picked Mac Wilson. He promised us after the game before this that we were going to see dominant Bama defense and dominant Mac Wilson, and we definitely saw that this weekend. Just the rush defense was great. We held probably one of the better quarterbacks we're going to have to see in the regular season. We held him to minimal passing yards and rushing yards for a dual threat, and he led the team in tackles with 11, and he also got a sack. So he definitely kept his word, which I think we're going to have to see even more of that, especially if Tua can't go full games going forward. We're going to have to definitely see a stronger defense, and he's going to lead the way. So we decided to do something a little bit different for around the league. Instead of just going in an inch deep, mile wide, we're going to pick 3 games. We're going to talk about them a little bit more. Bryant, you picked a game. Yours was the Michigan game, and we can talk about that. You can take it off.
Yeah, after the first game of the year, a lot of people were writing Michigan off, but they've improved a lot since then. Their defense has always been solid. They've just kind of been needing some offensive rhythm, and they destroyed Wisconsin Saturday night. Shea Patterson had a really good game. Their running back, Higdon, he had a really good game. So they're finally clicking offensively, and they got a couple more tough games, most notably Ohio State's last game of the season. But if they can, get some momentum, going into that game and be still only a one-loss team, they got a really good shot to make the college football playoff.
Yeah, I definitely think that they control their own destiny. And you're right, a lot of people did wave them off, but obviously everyone's proven one loss doesn't mean anything if it's against a semi-good opponent. And that Notre Dame loss is becoming more and more respectable as Notre Dame keeps to succeed. So I think we're going – if we keep going down the path, I think that the Michigan-Ohio State game is going to be a play-in for the playoff. Anything you add?
Yeah, I think that could definitely be a possibility. But the game I had was Georgia-LSU. I came into this game, I really expected Georgia to win. I thought that LSU could give them a chance, but LSU surprised me in a good way. You could tell their defense is legit, and I think that's also a little bit of a testament to how overhyped we had Georgia. Their defense is not as good as it was last year, and I don't know, Jake Fromm, he's really missing Devon Wims as a downfield threat this year. I mean, he's got some great receivers, but I don't know, he's just not looking the same, and LSU is going to have some major momentum heading into the second half of the season.
Yeah, I said that I would have picked LSU in that game if it was a night game, but LSU just proved what kind of environment that they can have. And they definitely have 2 guys I think are going to go top 10 in the draft between White and Greedy Williams on that defense. And everyone keeps calling Burrow a game manager, but if you're a game manager with that type of defense and you have a good running back behind you, that's all you need to be. And if of course, we're going to make our pick about how LSU does this week. But if they go out of this week pretty well, then that's definitely going to be a good game for us going in.
Yeah, I think teams are kind of they're not respecting Jake Fromm, and rightfully so. They're stacking the box and they're saying, just like LSU did, they're like, throw the ball. We dare you to throw the ball. And Jake Fromm, he hadn't been able to make the throws. I think Georgia's going to be in kind of a dilemma like Alabama was in last year, where they got a talented young freshman quarterback over there on the sideline who probably would make their offense a little more explosive, might be a little more mistake prone, but I'm not calling for a change at quarterback, but I think it's something that could definitely happen in the near future.
Yeah, definitely so. And again, that's nothing against Jake Fromm. He had a bad game this week, but besides that, I think that we pretty much have a good option. That Georgia has a pretty good option there. I keep saying, and this isn't necessarily my pick, but a lot of people have him as QB1. So that's a really good thing for Georgia. It's a good problem for them to have. But anyway, enough about Georgia. They don't matter. Our game, or the game I picked, was Auburn losing Tennessee. I really like talking about this because, honestly, going into this game, it's your 2 biggest rivals, arguably. There's not really a bad way for it to go. It's definitely a bunch of good options, and it was a very good option seeing Auburn lose. Even when they were trying trick plays, they were still making mistakes, having turnovers. It's just Auburn has turned to an absolute dumpster fire, and I am 100% here for it.
Yeah, the only thing about that is like you really don't want Gus Malzahn to get fired just because of how bad they've been. I mean, it's gonna be hard because of that buyout. So it's really a win-win for Bama fans either way.
Yeah, I think kind of what's getting lost in the discussion is the fact that I think Tennessee's genuinely improved since week 1. I'm not saying they're going to be a really tough game for us, but I don't think they're going to be a Ole Miss or an Arkansas, where the game's over at halftime. The quarterback plays improve. Jeremy Pruitt's kind of just improved the team as a whole, and that doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm not going to be surprised in a couple of years when they are in the top 25 and they're one of the better teams in college football. So, yeah, Auburn does have its problems. Yeah, there's a long list of problems there in Auburn. There's not really one thing you can pinpoint, but kudos to Tennessee for not hanging it up early in the season and still striving to get better and win every week.
Would you take this week's Tennessee team to beat West Virginia back in week 1?
No, probably still not. But I don't think Tennessee's a great team. I think they are getting better. I'll say that.
Honestly, I think I would take them just because I think their offense has gotten a lot better and Garantano's doing a lot better. And their defense, honestly, is improving. It's not as big of a gap as offense has improved, but they're making steps in the right direction. I'm at least, if it was a neutral slide, I would take it as it could go either way game at the very least.
I definitely think it'd be a closer game than when they played at the beginning of the season. I think the biggest thing that Tennessee's gained since that game is probably confidence. After I don't think they won an SEC game last year, so it's hard to come into the season playing a top 25 team in West Virginia. You don't have a lot of confidence, but now they've beat Auburn and they got that SEC win. So, and they know Auburn was, they were projected to be a really good football team, and Tennessee probably feels like they still beat a decent football team in Auburn. So they probably got some confidence now, and we'll see how they do the rest of the season.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Cleveland Browns because they had that big, monkey on their back because they couldn't get that win. And I think the same thing with Tennessee. They couldn't get that SEC win, and I think they actually went like a couple seasons without one, and it was just like, when are we going to get this? And now they got that. I really think, not this week, but in future weeks, they're going to be firing on all cylinders. I think that's all the nice stuff we have to say about Tennessee this week because it is Tennessee Hate Week. But actually going into that, our Ballers of the Week from last week, if this wasn't the Tennessee week, I would pick Garantano, but it's Tennessee Hate Week, so I can't talk nice about Tennessee anymore. So I'm going to make it Derek Mason, the head coach at Vandy. Vandy almost beat Florida, and Mason almost got into a fight with Dan Mullen. And just watching the video, I think he was pretty justified. And I'm not saying he's one of the better coaches, but if I was a player, he's one of those guys that you get that vibe that you really want to work with him, that he's really going to go to war with you. Even though he might not have the X's and O's sense or the coaching ability that obviously some other teams have or some other coaches, I still think that he's really a better option for Vandy than what they've had before.
Yeah, my baller of the week is Michigan running back Karan Higdon. Ran the ball 19 times, 105 yards and a touchdown. I mentioned earlier, Michigan's offense is starting to look a lot better. They found that run game a little bit. Shea Patterson even ran the ball. I think he was close to rushing for 100 yards, if not 100. I'm not 100% sure, but Jim Harbaugh maybe get that Michigan offense clicking and see what they can do on down the stretch here in November, late October.
So my baller week was Justin Herbert, the quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. Towards the end of last season, he really started gaining some momentum, draft-wise. And I didn't really know a whole lot about him, but this year he's really jumped off the page as one of the top guys, especially for this year's draft. So this past game he threw for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win over Washington. And Washington's a pretty good team. I think they were ranked 7th before this game. So Oregon definitely took a huge step there. And early in Mario Cristobal's career at Oregon, they're making huge strides, and I can't wait to see how he keeps it rolling.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, he's definitely QB1 on the draft boards. Although a lot of people are talking that he might try to stay that extra year, His brother's going to be playing at Oregon next year, so getting a chance to play with him. There are also a lot of rumors that he might not be ready to take the load of an NFL franchise with all their eyes on him, and a lot of people think he's not mature enough to handle it. But I think he should definitely go into the draft because he's QB1. He's probably a top 5 pick. If he waits next year, at best, he's probably QB4, QB5. That's how good next year's quarterback class is going to be. So I think if I were him, I would go ahead and declare.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think if he stays, then you're looking at like a fairly clear favorite in the Pac-12 to win that division next year.
Oh, no doubt in my mind. Honestly, I think at this point they're the favorite to win it this year. But obviously they didn't go in as that. But after almost beating Stanford, and Stanford's already lost a couple games, taking care of Washington, they have the bulk of their schedule past them. I think
they really should have won against Stanford because that game, oh my gosh, this makes me mad because like I root for Oregon. I guess because of Mario Cristobal, some just because I love their jerseys and stuff. But still, like all they had to do was not fumble the ball. I guess they really could have kneeled it, but they fumbled and ended up losing that game.
Or if they had that one that was a touchdown that got called back, if they score a touchdown there was I think it was a 99.9% chance by FPI for them to win that game at one point, and they just let it fall. And they were just a meltdown away from being undefeated. And I'm pretty sure I had that quote last week, but they're definitely taking steps in the right direction. And up next, what do we learn? Bryant, you can take yours first.
Yeah, maybe LSU is a top 10 football team. Maybe they are a top 5 football team, but I know that Alabama, they'll need to bring their A game when they go into Baton Rouge here in a few weeks. Every time we go to LSU, it's been a tough game ever since Saban's been here. You can't name one time we've gone down to LSU and the game's been easy since Saban's been here. It just hasn't happened. And part of that is because LSU has great football teams year in and year out, and part of that's because of the environment and the atmosphere down there. It's truly a tough place to play in. They need to get healthy as they can. Hopefully Tua's healthy. Hopefully, the receivers are healthy, and hopefully the defense is ready for a tough physical game because that's what it's going to be. This is probably one of the more tough physical games Alabama's going to play all year. The past couple of years, I feel like LSU probably hasn't been as physical as they've been, earlier in Saban's tenure at Alabama. But I feel like this year it's going to be one of those, whoever's more physical on both sides of the line is probably going to end up winning the football game. Whoever makes, less turnovers and takes care of the football will end up winning that football game.
Yeah, it's also going to come down to can our receivers and can Tua handle that secondary because they got a really tough secondary and just that environment because Tua still hasn't played a true road game in a hostile environment. Obviously, the championship game might as well have been a road game, and that definitely was a hostile environment. But this whole season, the biggest one is probably Ole Miss, and that was out of hand after the first quarter. He really shut them up early. But nothing compares to LSU, especially if that's a night game, which I'm assuming it will be. What I'm learning every week who's really still in contention for the playoff. And here's what I see as of right now. Pac-12, down in just Oregon. They're the only ones. Technically Washington State, but I think they're going to lose this week anyways, so I just got Oregon there. Big 12, Big 10 is realistically down to Michigan and Ohio State. You can technically throw in Iowa because they're a one-loss, I believe, maybe undefeated. But honestly, Michigan, Ohio State. Big 12, West Virginia, Texas, Oklahoma. I don't see any of them making it, but they're the only ones with a chance. ACC, NC State, Clemson, mostly Clemson. Unless NC State pulls up the upset this week, it's going to be all Clemson. SEC is obviously the big three, Bama, Georgia, LSU. We're going to find out in a couple of weeks. We're probably going to get that list down to 2. And after that, just throw in Notre Dame. I don't think any group of 5 has a chance at this point. I think there's too many teams up for grabs unless, Clemson just gets blindsided and loses 2 games or something. I think we're down to that small group.
I'm not necessarily predicting an upset, but I think Florida still controls their own destiny too. I think you got to watch out for Florida there in the Georgia game. Dan Mullen had that team really improving every single week. I'm not saying they're going to beat Georgia, but I think they could give Georgia a tougher game than people anticipate.
Yeah, they probably can. I kind of just kept them off, honestly, because I'm not going to predict that win. But if they win that game, then, who knows? Maybe they can throw a monkey wrench in things.
Yeah, just looking ahead at their schedule. If they if they were to beat Georgia, they play Missouri, South Carolina, I believe Idaho, and then Florida State. So if they were to pull off the upset against Georgia, it'd be very doable for them to go 4-0. Which, I mean, I don't know if they'll beat Georgia. I don't necessarily think they'll beat Georgia, but I didn't think LSU was going to beat Georgia either. So, and we'll see how Georgia responds from a tough loss like that. Really, it'll be interesting.
Anything can happen. I learned that there's a real chance that the SEC doesn't get 2 teams in anymore. Like, what we thought coming into this year was that Bama and Georgia were going to go undefeated heading into the SEC championship game. One was probably going to win by a touchdown, maybe 2, like at most, and then both of them were going to get in. Ohio State probably, Clemson probably. That's what we thought coming into it. A lot of things have changed. Georgia lost to LSU. Clemson doesn't look as good. Ohio State, they're still undefeated as of right now. I mean, obviously so is Clemson, but like they just don't look as good. Notre Dame is still undefeated, so it's going to be a mess. But anyway, going back to the SEC, if we go to the SEC championship game the way it's set right now, Georgia and let's just say Georgia and Alabama, if Georgia wins, there's a good chance that that's the only chance that both could go in is if Georgia wins by about a field goal. It probably could not be more than that. If Bama wins, obviously Georgia's a 2-loss team now. They can't get in. And if LSU somehow pulls the upset against Bama and then gets the SEC championship game, the loser's not going to get in. So that's the way I see it, and it's just going to be harder for us.
Actually, let me throw this by you. Let's say somehow LSU beats us and it's a really close game. We go undefeated. We are a 1-loss team like last year, and LSU wins out. Or even if Georgia gets the revenge against LSU. So you have a 1-loss SEC champion and a 1-loss non-SEC champion Alabama. Do you think they're going to pick one over the other, or do you think they're both going to get in?
You said LSU and Bama?
So LSU beats Bama, and then LSU goes to SEC championship. Either they win or they lose against Georgia, and Alabama wins out besides that.
I think a lot of it is really going to depend on the rest of the country because if Clemson loses, maybe. If Ohio State, better chance. If Notre Dame, I think if Notre Dame loses one game, then they're done, like they're out. But if Clemson loses one and then wins the ACC, or it's like same thing with Ohio State, but maybe Michigan could take that spot. There's really a whole lot more to be determined, even though we only have about 4 weeks left. But a lot can happen, and that's really going to be the dependent, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. What you were, I think that's actually probably the SEC's best chance to get a second team in is for LSU probably to beat Alabama, and then for both teams to win out the rest of the way. That's me personally, but again, for that to happen, you'd probably be looking at a 1-loss Clemson, a 1-loss Ohio State, a 1-loss Notre Dame. At least two out of 3 of those teams being 1 loss. So, it's really hard for a conference to get 2 teams anyways. A lot of chaos has to go on. But if there was something to happen, that would be my best guess of what would happen.
Well, I think like you could make a really good argument that the best 2 teams in the SEC right now are LSU and Bama. I mean, obviously because the LSU just beat Georgia, and just because they haven't looked as good this year. So I mean that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think the big X factor for all this is Notre Dame, because obviously if they win out, they have a spot, but if they lose, they're completely done. And if the Pac-12 keeps going as we expect it to, and the Big 12, if there's a little more parity there and a couple teams beat each other, and I think the Big 12 really has a bad thing where you have to have a rematch in your Big 12 championship game, because that really makes it hard for a team to win out or to even be a 1-loss champion, because you're probably going to slip up somewhere else. But I think the biggest part is if Notre Dame goes undefeated. If Notre Dame goes undefeated, I don't think that happens. But if they lose, it definitely makes it a lot more possible.
Yeah, it's still early, even though it's halfway into the season. But there's still a lot of 1-loss teams left around the country. It'll all play out though. I think the committee's got it right on the 4 teams getting in every year, and I think the 4 best teams will get in again this year.
Yeah, and hopefully all this is a moot point, and we'll just beat LSU, and we don't have to worry about it. We'll have to worry more about who we play than whether or not we get in.
Best case scenario for me, I would love to play Notre Dame in the semifinal, and then Ohio State in the final. Just like do a little revenge tour. I mean, Notre Dame didn't beat us, but I just want to beat them again, just because Notre Dame always talks about how good they are.
Yeah, that'd definitely be nice.
I think if I had my pick, I'd play like Oklahoma in the semifinals and then Ohio State in the championship game.
Okay, hold on. If I actually had my pick, like I would pick Ohio State in the semifinal, and then UCF in the final. Not UCF wouldn't make it to the final, but like if there was a final, like the national championship game
Against last two
against
national
old
champions.
against old UCF.
I don't even want to play UCF. Like they're just wasting our time if we were to play them. That's what I think about UCF. Like, why should we give them the time of day?
The ending of last year's national championship game was amazing. It was one for the books, but I'd rather just thump a team.
Yeah, honestly, as long as we know we're going in before we see the TV show and they announce it, I'm okay. Because I was absolutely sweating bullets trying to see if it was going to be us or Ohio State. So as long as we get in comfortably, I think we can beat anybody.
Dude, okay, so like I was literally, when we found out what it was, I was sitting in church and I had like my phone beside me and I was like checking it like every couple seconds. I just couldn't pay attention. And then like it came on, I looked over at Brian a couple pews over and he like looked at me and he smiled really big and I like nodded my head. It was like, oh yeah, we're in. And like while his dad's up there preaching, you know.
Like on a serious note, like how confident were you that Alabama was going to get in? Like I was honestly like if you would have like asked me, I'd have been like, yeah, I think Alabama's getting in. I just think even like, you know, even Kirk Herbstreit, Ohio State alum, in the was it after game saying, I think Alabama's the fourth best team, so I think Alabama should get in. And then, you know, a lot of the inside gurus or whatever you want to call them, they were like, I think Alabama's going to get in. So, you know.
Okay, so like I thought that Bama was a better team than Ohio State, and to this point, I didn't think that the committee had gotten it wrong, but I just didn't know because I felt like everybody else was trying to give this perspective that like, come on, man, Ohio State, like they're better than Bama, like look at their resume, stuff like that. But I ultimately think that loss to Iowa, especially by that margin, was their downfall.
Yeah, the 31 point to loss to Iowa, that's definitely what did them in. And, I mean, Ohio State was a decent football team, but they weren't as good as Alabama last year. I'm sorry, but they weren't.
Okay, this was me. I would watch about 15 videos about people giving their takes. 14 of them would say Alabama's going in. I'd be like pretty confident. One person, even if it was like Skip Bayless or someone, would say that Alabama shouldn't get in. And then I'd be like, oh no, we're not going to get in. Like the further on in the day, the less and less confident I was.
What was that lady's name? Heather
Dinich.
Heather Dinich, it seems like she probably would have bet her life and house and kids on Ohio State getting in. She was like,
you know, one thing that actually made me confident was that I was watching the college football playoff, I don't know what's it called, like college football countdown Sunday morning, and she said, I think Alabama's going to get the 4th spot. And once she said that, I was like, well, and I mean, I don't agree with a lot of stuff she says, but I've heard and read she does have connections inside to some people in that committee, and so you know whether you like her opinion or not, I really don't. But
well,
but,
I read tweets, and one of them said not to be an insider, but there was just a huge swing in the betting line for Ohio State to get in. So they're like with the last 15 minutes before the pick, a butt ton of money was put on Ohio State. And it's like, I don't know if they have insider information. And then some Alabama Twitter, like not an official, just like one of the better known fan accounts, like while we're watching it, about I'd say 15 seconds before, he said, we're not getting in. And I thought he actually knew, and I thought that my TV was just behind, but he was just not confident. So like when I saw it, my blood pressure probably just like dropped because it was so high, but thank God. Like, it all happened. We had 2nd and 26. We have Tua. Everything's okay. Which makes me feel a lot better about myself. Okay. Now back on more high notes. Our top 5 this week. Top 5 Tennessee Hate Week moments. Of course, Tennessee Hate Week is probably a bigger holiday than Christmas on Alabama campus. Us being freshmen, it's our first one on campus, and our professors are talking about it. It's on Twitter pages. We're getting stuff in emails. It's all over it. You can't avoid it on Alabama's campus. So, Oakley, you had your top 5.
Yeah, and I'm going to go kind of different than how I wrote it down in here on our little script. But, so here we go. Number 5, I'm going to have us hiring Lane Kiffin, because like that wasn't like a direct punch to Tennessee, but it really had to suck for them to see that, hey, we got your guy and won a national championship with him, and like that's just amazing. Number 4, I'm gonna have the days since Tennessee beat Bama Twitter page. There's literally a Twitter page that just counts every single day, and since the last time that Tennessee beat us, and I just love to see it go up every year. Number 3, I'm gonna have the Tennessee hate video. I'm sure most people know I'm talking about their low down, their snitches. I hate the color orange. That guy going off. This is really awesome. Number 2, I have the cigars. After every win against Tennessee, our players smoke cigars, and that's just become an iconic thing throughout the years. It's really cool. And number 1 is the Rocky Block. I just remember when I heard about it, I was young and like I didn't. This is when I really kind of first started getting into football, and we were sitting there watching it. And when they got down like within field goal range, you're like, oh, they can definitely make it from this one. Like because at first you're at the 40, they're like, oh, I don't know. Then they got to the 35, you're like, oh goodness, he's getting closer. And the closer you got, the lower chance that he would miss it. And then he kicked it, and they blocked it, and all the adults in the room went crazy, and it was an awesome scene.
Yeah, so my top 5, I really focus more on some games. I just that's what I wanted to do. So number 5, I had the 2015 win. If you remember, that was actually a really tough game. It was at home in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think they won that game 19-14. I think Ryan Anderson had a strip sack at the end.
Yeah, I was actually there for that game.
Yeah.
It was funny because that was a game that, even though going back and looking at it, we had a big chance to lose, but when you were in that stadium, even when it got close and they had a drive with a chance to win it on the line, you never thought we were going to lose that game.
Yeah, Coker put together a big drive there at the end, and then they capped off Derrick Henry running the game-winning touchdown. Number 4, Saban's first win over Tennessee. That was he obliterated Tennessee that game. Don't quote me on this. He either started off the game or the second half with an onside kick. Can't remember which one it was, but they did recover. 2016 was a beatdown. Yeah, Tennessee was number 9 in the nation. I think they won like 49-10, something like that. It was Jalen Hurts' freshman season. He had a really good game that game. Probably one of his best games that he ever played here at Alabama. Bo Scarborough ran that touchdown at the end where he tried to give the high five to the guy in the stands. Probably remember that. Number 2 is Cody blocked his second field goal of the game to help Alabama win. And then number 1 is, so we're talking about moments, just cigars after the win. Don't know if you've ever been in the Bryant-Denny Stadium if Alabama's beating Tennessee, but you'll probably never forget it if you have been.
Yeah, definitely. That was actually I'm going to make that my number 5, was smoking cigars after the win, just because when I was there for that game, it's just a big puff of smoke, and it just comes from the top of the stadium. And hopefully we're going to have a lot of people smoking those in Neyland Stadium. Number 4, I picked Rocky Block. This is actually one of my first Bama games I remember watching, and it's probably like Alabama's greatest moment in history until 2nd and 26. It's definitely what Terrence Cody is going to be known for. You know, he didn't do a lot in the NFL, and that was pretty much his last year, but that's going to be a big play for him. Number 3 is the same, that Twitter page, day since UT beat Alabama. I think by the time the game starts, it's going to be 4,342 days. And the best part is, anytime you win, you know you're adding 365 more days to that tally count, which is just so fun to watch. And whenever Tennessee's doing good, so let's say Tennessee like beats us in basketball, or they have an upset and people are trying to hype them up, or they're ranked in the top 25 to start the season for Lord knows how long, one of those random tweets, it'll just be like, 4,217 days, and it'll just get retweeted a lot just to remind people what's really going on. Number 2 for me, stealing their coaches. We used to laugh because their head coach was our offensive coordinator, just like, a middle finger to Tennessee. It's like he's your best coach, and he's our offensive coordinator. It's gotten worse because now their old head coach is our intern. He's literally not even allowed to coach players on our squad, and he was your head coach, so that just says something about it. And number 1, that famous YouTube video Of course, I knew about it before we came here, but that video just goes absolutely viral every Tennessee Hate Week. They low down, they dirty, they some snitches. That orange is the puke inside of a pumpkin orange. I've watched it literally every single day since Tennessee Hate Week has started. Our teachers have been quoting it, or at least my professors, they've been quoting it all week. It's all over Bama Snapchats and Bama Instagrams and Twitter. We actually put a tweet out on the Dorm Squad Sports page about it. It's just probably one of the biggest Tennessee things, especially on campus. That's not really something that expands outside of campus, but on UA's campus, that's a really big deal. So up next, and Bryant, you can take this first. What do we need to see against Tennessee this week?
Tennessee's been playing a lot better, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast. But so I think this could be a little tougher game than people think. It may not be over 5 minutes into the first quarter like a lot of games have been. But I also think it's important that Alabama gets healthy this week and this next week. Some injuries. Tua's got the knee sprain. Devontae Smith's got the pulled hamstring. Ruggs has got the ankle. So, just getting healthy. Continue to have another solid week on defense. I thought the defense really improved last week. I like to see them build off that performance. And the offense really just keep on doing what it's doing, and I think we'll be good.
Yeah, I think health is probably like the number one that we need to think of. But I thought we probably need to have a good left guard play because throughout this week, Deontay Brown has been taking the left guard snaps ahead of Lester Cotton. I think Lester Cotton tweaked his left ankle or something last week. But either way, he's been taking those snaps ahead of him. And I just want whoever gets in there to play well. We don't need Cotton playing in there if he's hurt. But also, if he can't, then we need Brown to step up. It'd be really nice if Deontay Brown could do that job well because Cotton's a senior and Brown is a redshirt sophomore, and so that's a couple more years of a starter we'll have at Bama.
Yeah, my biggest thing I want to see is definitely health. I'd be perfectly okay if Tua only plays one quarter of this game because one, that probably means that we're winning already, and two, it keeps him from getting hurt, gives him an even longer stretch going into that bye week, getting ready for LSU. And I definitely don't want to see him in the fourth quarter unless it's somehow still a close game. We'll be absolutely fine if Smitty can't play this week. I think our wide receiver core is so deep that we're not going to need him. But he's always a good player to have if he is available. But if he's not 100%, I don't want to see him on the field. I don't want him to have a helmet on. And I just don't want anything to happen to any of our vets because we have so many upperclassmen who are really big players. And, whether it's, Damian Harris getting hurt, someone on the D-line, if it's, Deontay Thompson, Mac Wilson, there's just so many players that I think the collective work of all of them is why we're so good. And I don't want to lose, even if it's just one or two players, I don't want to see us have to lose that, especially at some positions where we're a little bit down. Okay, up next we have our game predictions for the week. We always pick 5 games. There's some good games this week. First one, Auburn versus Ole Miss. Battle of the dumpster fires in the SEC West.
Yeah, for real. I mean, both those teams have been looking a little worse than in the beginning of the season when we thought they were going to be Greek gods. But last week almost took Tennessee over Auburn. Probably should have. But this week, still going to take Auburn because I think they have a pretty good defense. And if Jarrett Stidham can get things straightened out and Gus Malzahn can, call plays better. I really don't know what to say about Gus Malzahn. But I think they have the talent to beat Tennessee anyway. I think Tennessee's on the rise, but just kidding, this is Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is good, but and they have a great offense, but I still think that Auburn can bounce back here and get the win.
I'm going to go with Ole Miss, actually, this week. I think Auburn's issues go a lot deeper than the physical play on the field. Ole Miss has got a really good offense, probably a better offense than Tennessee. I feel comfortable saying that. This game's not going to be at Auburn. It's going to be at Ole Miss. It's going to be a breakfast game, so we'll see how well Auburn can get up for that. I've heard that, practice has kind of been really loose this week at Auburn, kind of like hey, we're not going anywhere, so might as well have fun with it. But I'm taking Ole Miss, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I honestly think at the end of this year, we're going to see a lot of underclassmen for Auburn either transfer or declare for the NFL draft, just because it's not looking well there. And I know they probably are being like, okay, well, we don't have much to play for. But honestly, they still have a lot to play for, because if they lose this game, they might not make a bowl game. Like, they'd have to upset someone in order to make a bowl game if you're losing Ole Miss. They have one more guaranteed win on their schedule, and they need 2 wins in order to get bowl eligible. So I think it's put up or shut up time for Auburn, and I think they're going to find that way to win. But this is really a downward spiral for both teams, and it might be a dumpster fire for Auburn. But at the end of the day, they're just more talented, and if they can just let the coaches get out of the way and just let the players play and put them in a somewhat decent scheme, I think they're definitely better.
After what happened to them last January, they might be hoping they don't make a bowl game.
Yeah, if so, hopefully not against UCF at the very least.
Or at least whoever beats them, hopefully they won't claim the national championship.
Lord, I hope not. I mean, who knows? Maybe their goal is to make like the Birmingham Bowl or something. Yeah. Maybe that's what
They're
want.
Birmingham Bowl champs.
Yeah. I mean, if would you rather lose the Peach Bowl or win the Birmingham Bowl? Like,
I'm not gonna answer that.
I think I'd rather be a national champion. Anyway, up next is NC State versus Clemson. Definitely, probably the biggest game left on the ACC schedule with the 2 undefeated teams. And I really want to pick NC State. I think Clemson's flawed. I think they can lose a game somewhere, but I still think they can avoid an upset here. I think it would have to be more of a true, surprising upset to take down Clemson. And I think they're going into this thinking, hey, they have a good quarterback, playing against us in Ryan Finley. They have, good D-line. They're going to be ready. They are undefeated. If we lose this game, we might not make the ACC championship game. This game matters. And in their, the quote-unquote Clemsoning games in the past, you don't have that. It's just a team that you should absolutely beat that just completely shocks you out of the water. And I think they're going to come in this game ready, and I think they are going to get the win because of that. Closer than people think, but I think they're going to get the win.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are giving NC State maybe a little more credit than they're due, just because I don't think that their schedule up to this point has been that difficult. And I don't think that Clemson's going to let this one go like Georgia did against LSU. I think Clemson's more talented, and I think that they have a lot better chance, especially coming off the bye. I think Dabo Swinney maybe corrected some things that he didn't like in the first half of the season, and I think that the Tigers get the dub in this one.
I'm going with Clemson too. North Carolina State, I know they're undefeated, but I don't really think they've played anybody yet. So this will be a good game for Clemson probably. See what Trevor Lawrence can do. I do think NC State's a good team. I just don't think they're undefeated. I don't think their undefeated record really doesn't really shows how good of a team they are necessarily. I just think they really haven't played a whole lot, but we'll get to see how it goes this Saturday for them.
Yeah, and sometimes honestly, all it takes is confidence. And going into a game undefeated, knowing that your season's on the line, maybe they just have the confidence to pull it off. I'm definitely rooting for it because it would make Alabama's path a lot easier. Up next, Oregon's game. Honestly, we all picked Oregon, but y'all can talk about it. Bryant, you go first.
Yeah, I won't say much. I think Justin Herbert's the best quarterback out there in the Pac-12. And that's why I'm going with Oregon, pretty much.
Yeah. Honestly, it is safe to say at this point that they are the only team to have a chance to make the playoff. Right now, for some reason, the spread and FPI are favoring Washington State to beat Oregon. I don't know if they just don't have any respect for Oregon, but I think Herbert's just too good to lose games like this, and I think he's going to pull it out and win.
Yeah, fun fact, Washington State's quarterback right now is Gardner Minshew, transfer, and he was actually committed to Bama at one point, but throughout the summer flipped his commitment to Washington State, and he's really balling out for him. But I think that Oregon is going to get this win here. They got they got the better quarterback. Even though Minshew's been playing well, I think that Cristobal will have him ready for this game.
Yeah, definitely, and Cristobal will be, representing Alabama well if he gets a win here. Up next, probably the biggest game in the SEC, LSU versus Mississippi State. A lot on the line for both teams. Oakley, you can take it first.
Yeah, I think that LSU has looked better than people expected this year, especially you, Cody. because you predicted them to go 3-5 throughout the
I
first.
said they
8
could go 3-5. I didn't predict 3-5. There's a difference.
I'm just saying. And like a lot of people picked Mississippi State to be really good, and I think I picked them as like Bama's like best chance to get defeated this season, and like they've looked worse. So expectations. Anyway, I think that LSU's going to look good this Saturday, and I'm going to ask you guys like, do you think that we could see Keaton Thompson come in for Nick Fitzgerald? I think that LSU's going to win, but I think that like, do they put Thompson in as a spark if Fitzgerald's not moving the ball?
Honestly, I think this is either going to be a game where LSU takes control so early that it's not even going to matter, or they're going to be doing so well it's going to be close that you're not going to take a risk and you're just going to go with the quarterback that's gotten you through so much. And I'll go ahead and do my pick next. This has everything you need to be a trap game. LSU coming off the most emotional win of their season. They're backed up against their bye week. They're looking ahead to Alabama. Mississippi State still has a lot to play for. They're good. They're good enough to contend in this game, definitely. And I'm not saying this to bash LSU. I honestly believe LSU is the better team. But based off of the situation you're in right now, I think they're going to come out slow. And maybe if Nick Fitzgerald can step it up, then I think Mississippi State's going to come out with a win. I apologize to LSU fans about the whole 3-5 thing. It honestly, you have to admit, it was an option. If they just played bad against everyone, they could have lost to. If Miami did as well as we were thinking they were going to. If Auburn did as well as we thought they were going to. If Georgia was good as we thought they were going to be, then that's 3 more losses. I mean, it's an option. Oh well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have Mississippi State.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to really be a trap game for LSU. I think one of the big factors that played into Florida beating LSU was that they had Georgia the next week, and they were probably looking ahead a little to that game. And LSU doesn't need to be looking ahead to Alabama because Mississippi State could definitely beat them. And answer your question about Keaton Thompson, I mean, if the offense isn't moving, anything can happen. But I think probably just Nick Fitzgerald's team right now. But anything could happen. But we'll see.
Yeah. Up next, our game of the week, as always, Alabama, Tennessee. It's Tennessee Hate Week. Let's wrap it up with some good picks for us. Bryant, you go first.
Yeah. So I got Alabama winning. This one's 49-17. I expect it to be a pretty solid game for Alabama. I think Tennessee will probably score a touchdown or two late in the game, probably against the second-team defense. I expect Tua to play good, Jalen to play good. Like to see us run the ball good against Tennessee. I'll be interested to see how, with the expected addition of Deontay Brown to the offensive line, see how he does. Jalen Waddle should be getting a lot more playing time this week with some banged-up receivers. I believe Henry Ruggs is good to go, but Devontae Smith is questionable. Wouldn't be surprised to see him not play. But overall, I think it should be a good game. Good game for Alabama at least. I think Alabama wins 49-17.
Okay. Honestly, this has been a really fun week. Alabama fans always are going to travel well to this game. I know both of y'all are going to this game. And I think y'all are going to be seeing a lot of smoke coming out of Neyland Stadium at the end of it. I think Tua is going to score on the first drive, as he always does. Our defense is going to keep making steps in that right direction. Hopefully we'll see Tua for a few drives, at most the first half, definitely not in the last quarter. I have Bama winning 48-13. And honestly, that's probably being generous to Tennessee. Beat Auburn and LSU in Tennessee, too.
Yeah, I mean, they're part of our Dixieland Delight, so you have to give them that. Yeah, I think Tennessee's looking better, but they're not near on Bama's level yet. I mean, this is probably the best offense. I know the best offense that Saban's ever had. I mean, possibly the best team. Just depends on how they finish this year. But I have Alabama 52-14. I think that they get this win. It could be a little tough whenever Tennessee. I see Tennessee having some of those big play kind of breaks. Garantano threw the ball better last week, and his receivers made good plays. But I still think we get this win.
All right, great pick. Okay, that wraps up Tennessee Hate Week version of Dormant Squad Sports. Make sure y'all subscribe on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube. We're putting stuff out both there. Subscribe on Twitter. We're always putting stuff out, especially live game tweets now. leave comments. You can always DM us on Twitter, email us, stormsquadsports@gmail. Just get in contact however you want, and hope y'all enjoy this week and have a happy game day.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.